Right, okay, so I think that's us live here. So, good evening, everyone. Welcome to another RideTo Riders Club live stream. Tonight we're doing another instructor Q&A. So, this will be an opportunity for you guys to ask any questions you may have, whether it comes to your riding you're currently doing, learning how to get on the road on a bike, and anything more advanced you'd like some help with. We'll have an instructor here and he will be able to teach you through everything you need to know. So at any time in this live stream, pop a question in the chat box and we'll get to you. So I'm going to go ahead and bring on Rich here. There we go, got Rich on the screen now. Before we get too far in, if someone wants to quickly drop a message saying we've got audio, but it seems to be okay. So Rich, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Yeah, evening everyone. My name's Rich. I'm the owner of Art Rider Training. We're based down in Essex. I've been a qualified DVSA instructor since 2005. Owned Art Rider Training for the last 10 years. Also a qualified enhanced rider scheme instructor and a Silverstone track day instructor. I've been riding on the road since my little Suzuki FZ50 when I was 16. So 32 years of experience. I was just doing the maths quickly there. So yeah, that's me.
Awesome. So I've just popped a question in the chat box for everyone. I'll just announce it as well, but it'd be good because I believe we've got quite a few more people that are likely to attend tonight. Where are people in their riding journey? So are you CBT? Are you post CBT? Are you looking to get on a bike? It'd be really good to know sort of where everyone's at with this. So I'll go ahead and put on to our first question. But as I said, if there's any questions you guys have, pop them in the chat. So these questions here are a bit more aimed towards like the beginning or early development for riding. So what is your sort of top tip for a beginner to push themselves out of their comfort zone?
Out of their comfort zone, cool. I think if you're taking anything outside your comfort zone, I think the first thought process would be consider the location that you're doing it in. So, for example, if you wanted to go and have a practice of braking, you've just done your CBT, you've been coached through how to do an emergency stop, and you think, oh, okay, actually, I want to go and brush up on that. Okay, so look at location and look at conditions. Yeah, you don't want to be going and doing it on a soaking wet A1 dual carriageway where everything's trying to fly past you at 70 miles an hour. So quiet little road, industrial estate at the weekend, something like that. Even something similar if you're still local to the school that you did your training at, go and use the same road. Yeah, so really consider that location where it gives you a chance to practice those skills that you've been coached through on the CBT. Another one is slow riding technique. Go and find a little quiet car park or something like that you can then just go and practice those skills and push it on a little bit. Just trying to see what technique sits and fits and works for you. But without doubt, I'd say the key bit is the choice of location, and then building at those sort of skills slowly. And trying to remember what the instructor said to you and coached you through when you were doing it on CBT or on your big bike lessons.
Yeah, so is it worth just sort of revisiting some of the lessons you did on your training? Is that something that would help you continue your development?
Yeah, without doubt. There's a reason why the CBT syllabus is set up in such a fashion. It's to take people that may have never ridden a motorcycle before through the various stages and getting used to the control of the bike, how it steers, how it handles, how it brakes, how it pulls away, etc., etc. So the syllabus has been created in such a fashion to give riders the skill sets that they require. Obviously, it is very difficult for schools to try and get riders up to sort of test level in 1, 2, maybe 3 days of training on a CBT pad. So without doubt, there is some emphasis on the rider to then maintain that skill set and try and improve and build on it, especially if they've done CBT and they're thinking about going on to do full license. So anything that you can keep on practicing in the meantime whilst you're riding around on your 125 is going to set you up really well for the full license stuff.
Yeah, and building on that, for someone that's just starting out, so let's say they've got their CBT and they're just looking to sort of improve their skills, um, what would be the main focus area? Like, what sort of skill would you be looking to improve the most? Would it be slow riding? Would it be cornering? Or
I think it would probably actually cover everything that you do on the CBT. Without doubt, if we're looking at things that people struggle with on the big bike stuff, it will be the slow riding technique. And for those of you that are in the position where you've just done CBT or about to do CBT, this is going to sound really alien because a lot of people do struggle with that slow riding technique. And doing the slaloms, the figure of eights, the U-turns and stuff like that. But if you can master it, if you have got the luxury of riding around on a 125cc for a bit, in between your CBT and tests, if you can master the slow riding stuff on your little bike, it's actually easier on the bigger bike. And this is a bit that sounds really alien to people because it's like the whole big bike, bigger engine, more power, heavier, etc., etc. But 100%, if you can master it on the 125, the second you then jump onto a big bike and transfer that skill set across, it's tons easier on the bigger bikes.
yeah, it's interesting, that isn't it? How a bigger bike is easier. It's always backwards in your mind. You'd think it'd be harder, but just having that bit more weight there, the nicer bike, it's just a lot better. I think most important is probably in my eyes the tires. Maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, without doubt, the tyres make a big difference. Obviously, with the bigger bike, you've got normally wider tyres than you've got on the 125. But also think about like the weight distribution. You've got slightly lower centre of gravity. You tend to have better suspension on the bigger bikes. So everything sort of combined gives it a much more planted, more stable feel compared to the 125s, which I think the best word to use there is that they can feel skittish at times. They're very light. It can be quite bouncy. Potholes and stuff like that impact you more than they do when you're on a big bike. And a lot of them, when you look at some of the new models and brands that are coming onto the marketplace, are built to a price. So they won't have, as good a suspension, as good a frame setup, geometry, etc., etc. So everything sort of combined on the bigger bikes makes it easier.
Yeah, when you say skittish, what would that mean for someone?
So skittish, flighty. My sense of that is feeling planted is when you feel connected with the road. You can feel what the road's doing. You can feel what the bike's doing on the road. Prime example at the moment, like I say, potholes, bumps, cracks in the road. It's a very, very different feeling when you hit one of those on a big bike compared to on a little bike. The little bike will sort of bounce and wobble around a lot more than the big bike will.
Yeah, we actually have someone in the chat saying that they've found the clutch on more powerful bikes to be a lot smoother, which, yeah, I think they tend to be a bit more like assisted. Is that the term?
Yeah, absolutely. The majority of clutches on bigger bikes are actually heavier. So the initial sort of pull might feel a bit more of a strain, but once you're used to that sort of tension, it actually allows for much finer control. And it's much less of what I describe as an on-off switch that you tend to find with some of the 125s. So you get to sort of the biting point on the 125, and then that's it. There's no other sort of room for manoeuvre. Some of the bigger bikes will also have hydraulic clutches, which again will help, just in terms of that feel on the lever. But the majority of it will be with the bigger engine and getting things moving. It needs to be a more sort of heavy duty, heavier clutch, which allows for that smoothness and that better feel through the clutch lever.
Yeah, I personally found that on bigger bikes, the clutch, where it's a bit heavier and there's a bit more torque there, you can kind of just pull away a lot easier on it. You sometimes you don't even need to add revs, I found. So
Yeah.
it's a lot nicer. Bigger engine just means it has a bit more pull as well, right?
Yeah, absolutely. But prime example there in terms of tech as well, because you did it on the SV650, didn't you?
I did, yes.
And the SV650 has actually got, I think Suzuki label it as anti-stall assist or something like that.
Yeah.
So
My instructor called it launch control, which I won't
yeah,
quite sure
it's not launch control.
but it definitely helped you with launching the bike.
Yeah,
It
absolutely.
launch control now.
Yeah. So basically what the ECU does there is it just introduces a few revs when you start to release the clutch in first gear. So for that first initial sort of pull away, you've got a bit of a sort of comforting arm around your shoulder, giving you a little bit of a hand. But that's a prime example of where you tend to get a bit more tech on the bigger bikes than you do on the smaller bikes.
Yeah. I guess that's another thing with bigger bikes as well, isn't it? It's they've got more features, so it is worth upgrading to that bigger bike license eventually, because smaller bikes are often made with a bit more budget in mind, so you're not going to get all the nice bits that the big bikes have. So
Absolutely.
cool. Okay, so I think we'll move on to the next sort of side of questions here. So these are a little bit more skill development and technical. So we did actually touch on this in a previous stream, but we'll do this on like on an easy level if we can. Counter steering. Do you want to go ahead and explain?
Thanks, Danny. At what point do I put my caveats in about perhaps don't try this at home?
Well,
no, I'm joking.
Yeah, we'll go from perspective of just like learning what the term means, because it's thrown
Absolutely
around a bunch, and I think there's a little bit of jargon that people get confused with. So
yeah, 100%. And there is unfortunately a lot of different sort of commentaries on what counter steering actually is. Yeah. So I guess the disclaimer bit at the start of it, in my opinion, counter steering is the most efficient way to steer a bike quickly. The majority of people will actually be doing it without even realizing that they're doing it. Okay. Now, counter steering applies when we're outside of slow riding. So it doesn't apply when we're doing things like slalom, figure of eight, U-turn, stuff like that. Okay. So anything sort of 15, 20 mile an hour and above that, we're into counter steering. Now, counter steering is left hand, right hand. To steer left or to tip the bike to the left, you push on the left handlebar. And this is the bit that trips people up, because if you imagine you're riding along like that and you think, well, if I push my left hand, it turns the wheel to the right. But what it's doing is, in a nutshell, and I'm not going to go too deep into the physics, but we're basically upsetting the geometry of the bike and allowing the bike to then lean. Okay, so it's all dealing with the gyroscopic forces of the front wheel, the back wheel, the center of gravity, masses, etc., etc. Okay, but by pushing on the left bar, the bike will lean to the left. Okay, pushing on the right bar, the bike will lean to the right. Okay, now that input is used to set the lean angle. So you set the lean angle for the corner that you're about to do. You don't need to be pushing on that bar all the way around the corner. The more you push on the bar, the heavier you push on the bar, or the more force you put into that bar, the faster the bike will tip. Okay. Now, like I say, the majority of people will be doing it in some way, shape or form to negotiate pretty much any bend, and probably doing it without even realizing it. In my mind, the logic behind understanding counter steering better is you've then got it in your toolbox to use in the moment. You've gone into a bend a bit too hot, misjudged it, and then thinking, actually, I can put some more lean angle in here and some more lean angle in fairly quickly and efficiently to hopefully allow you to deal with that bend. The best way of understanding it is to get out and ride. But going full circle back to what we were saying earlier on, pick a location. Pick a nice, safe location. Initially, a nice, dead straight, quiet road, no traffic around. And what you can do is actually ride down the road at 25, 30 miles an hour, whatever you feel comfortable with. And then just do a little push on the left bar, do a little push on the right bar, just a tiny little push, and put that input in, and you'll see what happens to the bike and how it can create that lean angle for you. That, hopefully, in a nutshell, is counter steering 101 in an understandable format. Please let me know if not.
Yeah, I think that's the best way of explaining it, really, because it's a little bit difficult to convey it over video. It's one of those things that you kind of feel it out and see how it goes with it. But I think that should help people with understanding what the premise of what it actually is. I think the word counter steering, people tend to think it's all about like counter steering into more like a slide or something. So people get a little confused sometimes, I've noticed. But
yeah, I think also it's regularly attached to sort of faster riding, like track riding or something like that. So people think that it's not required. And also there's this other term of counterbalancing, which is thrown around in sort of the motorcycle industry and training industry in particular, where that is more to do with, as an example, if you're doing the U-turn, you can counterbalance your body weight by moving to the left of the bike, which allows you to keep the bike slightly more upright as you're going around the turn.
Oh.
So the problem is that it's a very similar expression, and can lead to some degree of confusion.
So is that when you're sort of like the bike's tipped over, but you're like upright on it to try and keep it? Oh, okay.
That's it. Yeah, exactly that. So it's literally for the U-turn, for example, you literally move your left bum cheek off the side of the saddle to the left, and then that gives you enough counterbalance to then make the turn without having too much lean angle on. So particularly useful if people are struggling with the U-turn, and they've got a bit of a fear of actually tipping the bike to get the bike round the U-turn.
Yep, cool. I see someone else in the chat. Hi guys, old new rider here, back to riding so long. That's good to hear. So have you just started riding recently, or have you sort of done some riding before, Sean? Have any questions for us? So if we move it on to our next question here. So tires. So how much difference does that make with your day-to-day rides? And so is it worth buying the best tire you can get? That's basically what I'm asking.
Yeah, good question. So modern tires from the majority of recognized manufacturers. When I say recognized, the likes of Pirelli, Metzler, Michelin, Dunlop, Avon, people like that, are incredibly good and are far better than us mere mortals. I think I would shift it slightly. Do you need to buy the most expensive one out there? No, you don't, because invariably the best one or the most expensive ones out there are probably very fast track tires that are road legal. So you don't need to go as far as that. But without doubt, the main manufacturers are all of their ranges are very, very good. Yeah, some will suit different types of riding, some will suit different types of bikes. I think I'd tweak that question maybe slightly to then talk about conditions of tires is actually probably more important than talking about which brand and which model of tire, because you ask that question in a forum anywhere and everybody will literally put on their favorite tire and it will be completely different throughout the whole range of answers. So maybe let's talk about the condition of the tire. So things like tire pressure, age of the tire, and the general state of the tire. So tire pressure can have a huge impact on the handling of the bike. Literally 6 psi down from what the tire manufacturers recommended for that tire, and the bike will feel like it doesn't want to go around a corner. Yeah, if you've done a lot of commuting on the tyres up the A1 or around the M25, something like that. Not sure why I keep picking the A1, but it'll do. Your tyres will start to square off. Now, what happens there is you normally at the start you've got a tyre that's got a nice, lovely radius on it that's designed to fit the geometry of the bike. But what happens is the edges stay round, but then you get a very flat, square bit at the bottom. Okay, and that can feel really horrific because you're literally trying to get off the flat bit onto the round bit to get round a corner. It's like nothing, everything, and it feels like the bike's going to fall over. So yeah, conditioner tyres, age of tyres as well. Manufacturers recommend that a tyre life is approximately 5 years. So old tyres will start to degrade and break down, and they go very wooden and hard. And again, yeah, it can feel the slightest bit of wet roads, damp roads, and it can feel like riding on ice. So I think don't overthink too much the brand and the model, but do really consider the condition that you're keeping the tyres in.
Yeah, condition, and especially actually the age side of thing, it makes a huge difference, I found. Not necessarily related towards bikes, but I had a set of tyres with like 6mm tread on my car, and I thought they'd be good. But I bought part Warns and they were 10 years old. They were not good.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I think you could apply the same thing there, that the age of a tyre, if it's not been used and it's become hard, and I think you need to use a tyre pretty regularly for it to remain supple. Otherwise, the grip's just gone. So yeah, okay, that's a good consideration, really. Condition over the brand. Cool. Let me just read the chat real quick. What have we got here? So Sean's done a CBT, awesome. Used to ride a 125 back in the day. Yeah, CBT is great to do if you're just starting. For one, you have to, but you do learn everything you need to know on that first day. So doing the DAS now, awesome. Love to hear it. Cool. Have you got any ideas what sort of bike you're looking to get after you've done your DAS? That'd be cool to know. And is there any questions you have sort of regarding your DAS? Are you mod 1 yet? Are you about to do mod 2? Cool. I'll let you reply to that. But in the meantime, I'll ask another question. So yeah, so what's one habit that would separate a good rider from a great rider? It's a bit of a cop-out question, I guess, in a way, but because I'm sure there's many.
Yeah.
Right? But if there was one thing that you would want to be someone to focus on in their journey of becoming a better rider, what would that one area be to double down on?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think the one key skill that really makes sort of people stand out as a great rider, certainly on the road, is vision and the planning. I can see it when I'm following somebody out in some country roads and stuff, that they're making very calm, serene, sort of almost swan-like progress through the country roads, and that all comes down to their vision and their planning, and how they're then executing a plan to deal with what's coming up in front of them. You then turn that to a good rider who might have the skill set to lean the bike around any given corner, but maybe isn't reading that corner as well as the great rider on the approach to the corner. So all of a sudden you've got some heavy braking going on, or some last minute changes in position, and it looks like things are sort of rushing at them a little bit. Yeah. So without doubt, the one of the keys to improving any form of riding, whether you're at CVT level or DAS or even advanced level, is to really work on that vision and planning. And it just helps unlock everything for you. And one of the things I say to Module 2 test students is, it's the only exam you're ever going to do where all the answers are in front of you. So use those answers. Yeah. But that also applies to when we're out on the road, just in everyday use. All of the information is there. It's in front of us, maybe a little bit of information in the mirrors. But making sure we're using that information to then make the right decisions. And that just comes with just working on that vision and that planning.
Yeah, so perception is everything in that sort of regard. Okay, cool. Let's see. Any questions? A mutt starve, 25 still 3 years number 2. Nice. Looking at adventure bikes. Yep. What adventure bikes? I'd love to know. I'll tell you what, actually, I don't have it jotted down as a question, but is there any sort of considerations that you might have if you're riding a different style of bike? So perhaps someone that's got an adventure bike, perhaps someone that's got a bike with knobbly tyres on it. Is there anything to consider there between like a naked with regular tyres?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, not just in the tyre side of things, but the geometry of different styles of bike. If you go from a custom cruiser Harley type thing through to maybe a sports tourer through to the sort of taller adventure sports, they all handle in very, very different ways. Without doubt, to address the one bit that you put in there in terms of knobbly tyres on tarmac aren't much fun. It almost feels like you're sort of walking along the road. You can feel each block hitting the tarmac. So you don't have as much grip as you would then have in a nice muddy green lane somewhere.
Yeah.
But yeah, absolutely. Handling wise, different. If we look at adventure bikes, much taller front end, so you maybe don't get quite the same sort of feel and that connection with the road and information and feedback from the suspension and the front tire that you would do on more of a sports orientated bike or a sports tourer bike. So yeah, there is without doubt there's considerations to be taken into account when riding all different styles of bikes. Custom cruisers, Harleys, they're much lower, so their sort of ride height and ground clearance is lower, so you might not be able to carry as much lean angle through a corner as you would with a sports bike or a sports tourer. So yeah, there's definitely considerations to be made and to be had across different styles of bikes.
Yeah, it's I've just wondered like how different it feels on the road as well, because James has actually recently, and if people have seen the recent video we did about van life, he's got a CRF 250, and I quite like a go at one because I've always wanted to go on like a motocross bike. Very, very tall bike actually. Like it doesn't look that tall, but it's high off the ground and it's very upright. And whenever you hear a bike with knobblies go by, you can just hear it.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, definitely.
Do you need to sort of be a little bit more cautious on your brakes at that point, or kind of bit slow?
Yeah, it's just everything. I'm going to say one comment quickly. I thought that was some quality acting from James in that video, in the van life video.
Yeah, that's kind of what we're going for now. We're liking
that was brilliant.
Videos.
Yeah. For me, in that scenario, I'd actually combine the two, and I'd put the CRF in the back of a van, drive it to a green lane, and then ride the green lane and put it in the back in the van to take it back home again. I'm not a fan of knobbly tires on tarmac. But in terms of answering your original question, yeah, the grip isn't there when you're using knobbly tires, or it's not there as much as when you're using knobbly tires on tarmac compared to a completely road focused tire.
Yeah.
But everything that you're doing, braking, cornering, accelerating, you've got to be a little bit more careful and more conscious of the difference in the grip level.
And you can get different intermediates, I guess you'd say. Like you can kind of get like a full off-road tire, right? And then you can get like halfway between. Is that right?
Yeah, they call it like a hybrid,
Hybrid, yeah. Okay.
sort of road trail combination type thing.
Mm.
It's deciding what sort of riding you're going to be doing. Some of the adventure bikes, you look at things like the Suzuki V-Strom, the B&W GSs, Multistradas, stuff like that. They're not really the sort of bikes that you're going to have massive amounts of fun on green laning, because they're big, they're heavy. It still can be done, don't get me wrong. So at that point, if you're buying it for the style and maybe for the height, if you're a taller rider, they can be really comfy. At that point, you're sticking pure road tires on it. But yeah, I mean, CRF is more of a road going motocross bike.
Yeah.
At that point, you're going to be pretty much knobblies all the way.
Yeah.
But there is that middle ground that you can, if you want to do a little bit of light sort of green laning or off-roading, that you do have the hybrid tire available as well.
Yeah, Sean in the chat said manhole covers and knobblies, they don't mix. Found that out in my youth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very, very, very similar story from my youth, and that's why I'm not a fan of knobbly tires on tarmac.
Did you perhaps did something not go to plan, or?
Yeah, slightly, very low speed, unscheduled stop and dismount.
Okay, yeah. And what sort of bike was that on?
I can't remember what it was. It was an old Yamaha trail type bike thing.
2-stroke? Possibly.
Yeah, maybe. Can't remember.
I know DC comes to mind.
I've blocked it out of my memory.
Yeah, it's just the same, Rich. Yeah.
Happens to the best of us.
Cool. Has anyone got any questions? I've been seeing the chat's been active, but no one's got any direct questions yet. Reskin cynicism. Okay, cool. I'll pop another question over. Let's have a look. What have we got? I suppose this is like advanced riding at this point, but road versus track. What's one transferable skill from track riding that really improves your road performance, or is there none?
I'd say probably all of it transfers across nicely and can help improve road riding. When you think about it, with track riding, it's going to be more aggressive braking, more aggressive acceleration, more aggressive cornering. Now, obviously, take the aggressive acceleration bit out of that, because you know how to use a throttle on the road. But things like the more aggressive braking, the more aggressive cornering, what that creates for a lot of sort of majority road riders is the environment to practice those skills on track, that then transfer across. And again, we talk about this toolbox of skills that you've got to deploy. So if you've got that emergency braking situation, you now know what you and the bike are capable of in terms of actually scrubbing that speed off quickly and efficiently. In the situation that I mentioned earlier on, of the moment where you haven't planned the corner quite as well as you could have done, you then know that you've actually got both in you and the bike some more lean angle. So hopefully what that does is actually, we're not looking at the sort of developing those skills in the track world for you then to be going and doing Marc Marquez impressions around the A406 or something like that. But what it should do, hopefully, is give riders more of a safety net in terms of their skill set to be able to deal with the moments.
Yeah, and you can't be going full Marquez on any road really in the UK.
No.
I mean, there's potholes to consider as well,
Yeah.
You might find a nice bit of road, but you always got to make sure that it is clean, because it's not like a track where you're going to have a clean place to work with, because the roads are always changing, especially this time of year where it started to rain again and the road starts to get that level of greasiness to it, which you just got to be careful.
Yeah, absolutely. It does rain on track as well, as I found out at Silverstone last week.
It's
Week
crazy
before last.
that, isn't it? It rains on track, like.
Yeah. Well, we had one session that went from slightly damp track to fully flooded red flag in 3 corners.
Yeah.
It was torrential.
When it actually starts to become a lot wet on track, is there a point where it has to ever be cooled off, or is it just like to a point where...
Yeah, they will. So with the bikes, if there's standing water, and you've got the risk of aquaplaning, which very briefly, for those that might not have come across that, in effect, you're floating across the tarmac, above the tarmac, on top of the water. So yeah, that session in particular, like I say, the rain fell down like I've not seen rain for a long time, and literally in 3 corners on a very slow sighting lap. So we were only doing probably 50-60 miles an hour within 3 corners. It was down to about 1.5 inches deep in water, and immediately the red flags came straight out.
Are most riders on slicks or semis, or?
It'd be a mix. For those that don't know about track days, you'll have 3 groups: a novice group, an intermediate group, and an advanced group. The majority of people in the novice group are on sort of road bikes. So you get into the intermediates, you then get a mixture of road bikes and track bikes. And then when you get into the advanced, it's mainly track bikes that will be running slicks and tyre warmers and stuff like that. So yeah, it's a mixture.
Yeah, and rain and slick tyres never goes. You need that level of aquaplane resistance from having all the sipes in your tyres. So
yeah, exactly that. But it does highlight the finding the right environment to practice the skill. So it almost comes full circle to what we were saying about earlier on in terms of finding that location to try and improve skill set and build on skill set, and finding safe locations. A track day isn't something to be afraid of. I've coached people on track days that are slower than some of my Module 2 students. But it's a safe environment where people are keeping control of it. It's being policed, it's being watched, it's being looked after. And you've got flags to tell you about stuff. You haven't got cars coming the other way. So it is actually a really safe environment to just explore sort of new boundaries.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. When it comes to the track, I think it's a great place to test yourself, test what your bike can do, and just learn. So great place to learn, really. We've got a question coming from Sean saying, do you think there is much between a 10, 12 and 15 horsepower 125 starter bike?
So careful on the horsepower side of things. Because the minute you trip over, my brain's gone to sleep, because the majority of 125s are learner legal. The minute you get up to the sort of 15 brake horsepower 125s, they're actually too powerful to ride on a CBT.
Yeah.
So at that point, you're then comparing 10 to 12 horsepower. You're going to be hard pushed to notice the difference, in my opinion. You might get that sort of little bit of pep in the acceleration that you can just about feel, and maybe a little bit of top end, but I'm yet to find somebody who can feel a difference between 1 or 2 horsepower.
Yeah, there's not much in it, really. I think you'll find anyway that some of the bikes with more power in that sort of category anyway, you'd be more likely to feel the difference in power to weight, to be honest, at that point, because some 125s are a lot heavier than others. Take for instance when we rode those 3 bikes up to Scotland, it was the Grom, which surprisingly was the fastest, had the least power, but it was the lightest bike. So
absolutely,
it really comes down to that sort of stuff, like your gearing's a huge one actually, but probably I would say honestly, if you're looking at 125s, I'd imagine the more important thing to be looking at is just like, is it comfy? Is it going to work for you? Do you like it? Probably not worth being too worried over like an extra horsepower or not. So
I had to do a quick check just to get my facts right. 14.6 to 14.8 brake horsepower, so 11 kilowatts. That's the max power that you can have on a 125 whilst riding on a CBT on L plates.
Yeah, and that's why like a lot of the I think you see Aprilia RS 125 or something like that. That's capped at that, and so is the Duke. So they're both like capping you at that, really.
Yep.
Now, I think technically, and I have seen people do this, and you shouldn't do this, but there's a few 2-stroke 125s that people try to ride on the CVT, and ultimately it is completely illegal because sometimes they're running more than that 15 horsepower. At that point, well, you're out of your CVT's limit. So
at that point, you're then into no license, no insurance, all sorts of heavy mud that people can throw at you to prosecute. So be very careful. The majority of 125s are perfectly fine.
Yeah, absolutely. And as I said, probably just worth considering. What one do you like the most? Like, don't get too caught up on the horsepower figures.
Yeah.
Hope that answers your question there, Sean. If you any other questions, just fire away. We're sort of coming up to the last 3-4 minutes of our stream here, so got time for one more quick question. And if anyone has anything to pop over here, we can quickly get the answer for you. See if I've got like a very quick fire question we can do whilst if anyone's typing their own one. Okay, if we did this as a 1-minute question, if you could give every rider one piece of advice to get better safely on the road, what would it be?
1-minute question. I'm going to come back to talking about this vision and planning, I think.
Yeah.
Vision, planning, and building confidence at your own speed. So, you know, trying to look at, and I'm not trying to suck any joy out of it, because we ride motorcycles because we love riding motorcycles.
Yeah.
But if we can start to formulate a plan for how we deal with hazards that allows you then to deal with that hazard in a safe manner, what starts to happen is the subconscious takes over, and then you've got more brain space to deal with the unexpected. So without doubt, looking at that vision, that planning, having a structured approach to it, allowing that to help your confidence grow. And as you spend more bum on seat time, looking at it, analysing it, learning from mistakes, go out there and make some mistakes, because we all learn from making mistakes. You know, obviously we don't want the serious mistake that causes an accident, but don't beat yourself up on it. Analyse it, assess it, put it into the toolbox to allow your confidence to build. So yeah, vision, planning, confidence.
Cool, awesome. Yeah, I totally agree with that. It's the seat time is basically learning time, really. You're going to get more and more experience as the more you ride, obviously. So yeah. We got one question here that I missed. What's the average cost of a track day?
Largely varies depending on what track you go to. Somewhere in and around the £150 mark. But yeah, a day at Silverstone is over the £300 mark. You know, places like sort of Snetterton, Cadwell Park, Bedford Autodrome is another one that's sort of reasonably priced. And if you can try one sort of start of the season / end of the season, you can pick up some pretty good deals. Obviously, you've got the risk of the weather. But yeah, have a hunt around.
Is there perhaps a track you'd even recommend for a beginner?
All of them.
All of them, yeah.
No, I mean, Silverstone is great because it's so wide and lots of runoff area. Whereas the flip, somewhere like Cadwell Park is quite narrow, lots of grass either side. So it can be a little bit daunting, you know, especially lots of undulation changes and stuff like that. Snetterton I really like for coaching because it's quite flat, but you've got a lot of different types of corners. And another place I've just mentioned is Bedford Autodrome, another one that's quite open and good to see through.
Yeah, Bedford's nice. Oh, Alton Park, yeah, probably my favourite. I'm not sure. It looks really fun.
Yeah. I just like anything with some undulation.
Yeah, I mean, people call it the mini
Mini
Nürburgring.
Nürburgring. Yeah.
So, I mean,
Yeah.
sign me up, but
I definitely don't recommend the Nürburgring for first bike track day.
no. And isn't it now you can't do a tourist lap on
No.
regular tourist days? You have to go
Yeah.
for the bike days, which,
Yeah.
to be honest, might be better for
Yeah,
bikes
but
to go out.
certainly be safer.
Yeah, for sure. Cool. Okay, well, that's pretty much ran us to the end of our time here. So,
I'm going to jump in very quickly, Danny,
yeah, go for it.
because I'm going to get everybody just to say a massive congrats to you for
Oh,
the news that you shared at the start of the video.
yes, I
So congrats.
passed my test, so I've got my full license now.
Great job.
So very happy about that. Yes.
There you go. I've embarrassed you now. You can now say goodbye.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. So thanks everyone tuning in for that one there. So I think if you're new watching this, pretty much every month we do these, and we will be answering questions as we go along. And if you have any questions, just pop them in the WhatsApp chat, Discord chat. We're just trying to really get everyone to be talking with each other and really get that community vibe going. So hope this has helped. We've enjoyed doing this. So from me and Rich, we'll see you in the next one.
Love to see you all.
All right. See you all. Bye now. Cool. All done.
Good.
Perfect.
Sorry for the embarrassment, but I thought that was